For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief, and your host for this episode of Under the Dome for the week of October 30th, 2023. I'm here today with Raleigh Democrat and Member of Congress, Deborah Ross. Representative Ross, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be out of D.C.
I was going to say that. So we're recording this on Friday, where you've been back probably less than a day, I guess, hours since everything went down. So before we get to all of the drama with the U.S. Capitol and the Speaker, the drama in North Carolina this past week also had to do with Congress and the legislature too, but it was the redrawing of maps, which are now redrawn again, and partisan gerrymandering was allowed under the courts now. So that's what happened, and a lot of different districts there in the state Senate. Some people are double bunked, and there are two Democrats that are going to be making different plans for their political future. And the House district shifts a little bit, but the congressional maps were really the ones that were the most kind of newsworthy for us, I guess, because of how everything changed for your colleagues, not as much for you. So if you want to let people know how your district did change a little bit, but it's still a safe blue district for you going into next year.
Well, sure. And I have been representing Wake County in Congress. This is my second term. Because the maps changed between my first term and my second term, I've now represented 100% of Wake County. So the first time I ran, I represented Wake County pretty much south of 540. I currently represent Wake County north of the Southern Beltline. And what this new map does is really take most of the middle of Wake County. So I will lose a little bit of northern Wake, and I will gain some of southeast Raleigh, Garner, and a little bit of southern Wake, but not the large swath of southern Wake. A large swath of southern Wake, which is currently Wiley-Nichols district, will remain in the district with that number. I think it's 13. And so pretty much I'm the middle of Wake County, and I live in the middle of Wake County, so I'm very familiar with all the neighborhoods and the folks there, and I will continue to be a champion of Wake County.
What was it like with all of the drama going on in the U.S. House this past week, but also, you mentioned Wiley-Nichols and others, and Kathy Manning, whose future political lives were changed with what was going on in the state capitol down here. Did you all talk to each other? Did the Democratic delegation talk to each other? And of course, Congressman Don Davis and how his district could have shifted, and Foushie's too. So what was that like this past week with what you all were paying attention to, but also having to pay attention to what was going on there in D.C.?
Well, it was a chaotic week. So it was a chaotic week because we didn't know what was going to happen with the speaker's race. We didn't know when we were going to be coming back to our districts, and we didn't know what those districts were going to be. But we regularly have delegation meetings. So we had a delegation meeting when the maps came out, the different versions of the maps. And then we had a delegation meeting again immediately after the final votes on the maps, along with some of our advisors to decide about challenging the maps and to make some other strategic decisions. And so we keep in very close touch with each other. When there was a question about which map we were going to get, there were some other private conversations that went on between members, depending on which version may have been better for them. But ultimately, the legislature chose that. And as we know, Jeff Jackson knew from both maps that he wasn't going to have a chance to prevail in his current district. So he made plans to run for AG, and we're very supportive of that.
He seemed like that was maybe the least surprising of what could happen to his district, that he knew that was coming and making political future plans, and the others had maybe an idea of how things could be redrawn, but weren't necessarily. So have you talked to all of them since this about what they're looking to do next? I think, we've covered what Congressman Nichols had to say about it. He had some pretty choice words for the Republican map drawers and others as far as what you all are going to do going into next year?
Well, Congresswoman Adams has said that she's running again. Congresswoman Foushee has said that she's running again. I made it clear that I was running again under either of the maps because I was, again, in the middle of Wake County in a district that I have been representing in Congress. And also when I was in the General Assembly, I represented Wake County. So I've said that. And I think Kathy Manning and Wiley Nickel are assessing their options based on what may or may not happen with litigation.
What do you think about that district that was, still is, for now, Jeff Jackson's district? And it looks like, as we record this on Friday, people listen Monday, House Speaker Tim Moore, NC House Speaker Tim Moore, right, had said that he's considering a run for Congress, has not made any sort of declaration. What do you think about that? That Jeff Jackson, who of course served in the state Senate before, and will now come back and run for a statewide race here, and then the Speaker of the North Carolina House here, it looks like he's going to end up running in a district that was just drawn for him by his Republican colleagues.
Well, it's Groundhog Day because we thought that Speaker Moore was going to run the last time, but then Madison Cawthorn told him that he might primary him. I don't know if your listeners remember Madison Cawthorn.
I'm sure they do.
And so he decided not to run. And then the state Supreme Court rightly found the whole thing to be a partisan gerrymander and came up with the 7-7 map, which reflects the state of North Carolina and which should have been our map going forward. But because the state Supreme Court reversed the previous state Supreme Court, he got another bite at the apple, and he's back. He's back. I think Jeff Jackson has been pretty clear-eyed about this situation. I think he's been an excellent member of Congress. I'm on a committee with him, but I think he knew that what was going to happen, and he got himself ready to serve North Carolina in a broader way.
What do you think about some of your potential Republican colleagues? So if Moore ends up running, and the way the district is drawn, if he ends up winning, and then that other southern district that, looking at when the maps first came out, there's a chance that state House Republican member Tricia Cotham, she was drawn a more favorable Republican House district. But if she wanted to run for Congress, which people were wondering when she switched parties, if that was something she was trying to do, that's in that area. Bo Hines, who was defeated by Wiley Nickel last time, is from Charlotte. So if he was going to run again in that area, what do you see? You were talking about Groundhog Day. Do you see the same names coming up potentially?
Well, I see the same names coming up all the time. I served in the State House with Speaker Moore. So we were both elected the same year. As a matter of fact, we co-chaired the Election Law Committee many years ago. Yeah. It could get a little testy when we were co-chairs. For Tricia Cotham, she's tried to run for Congress in Charlotte before in a Democratic primary and lost. And so if she runs in a Republican primary with Trump on the ballot and Dan Bishop on the ballot, we don't know if she's going to be MAGA enough to make it through a Republican primary. So lots of drama in the Charlotte area, lots of drama.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the recent drama in D.C., which, of course, is connected to North Carolina because of Patrick McHenry. And then we'll also share our picks for Headliner of the Week. We'll be right back.
Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
So good, so good, so good.
New spring arrivals are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Get ready to save big with up to 60% off Rag & Bone, Marc Jacobs, Free People, and more.
How did I not know Rack has Adidas?
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite Rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you Rack.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan, here with Democratic U.S. Rep. Deborah Ross of Raleigh. Before the break, we were talking about the new congressional maps and what that means. And we're talking now about the current Congress and how everything has been going on for the past month for you in D.C. So what is that like being a Democratic U.S. House member with all the Republican drama playing out every day for weeks now?
Well, the drama was different every day. And so they had several people who tried their hand at getting their caucus to support them. Some got pretty close. For a Democratic member, we waited to see when the votes might be. We knew we were going to vote for Hakeem Jeffries unless, and we made this offer very early on, the Republicans were willing to work with us for a bipartisan path forward. I served in the North Carolina General Assembly when we had co-speakers. There are plenty of state legislatures that have had some coalition governments, and we put that on the table and we were serious about it. But the Republican conference decided that it had to be 100% Republican support in order to have a speaker. And eventually we landed on, or they landed on, someone who really hadn't been in the mix. Mike Johnson, I know him. I'm on the Judiciary Committee with him. And I've been on some subcommittees with him. But I think if you told somebody 3 weeks ago that Mike Johnson was going to be speaker, they would have said, Mike who?
Exactly.
Which is exactly what Mitch McConnell said. Mitch McConnell has never met him before, and he's like, Mike who?
How long do you think he'll, we'll see how long his political career lasts. McCarthy ended up, lasting longer than a lot of people thought, maybe, and he managed to roll with the punches for a while there.
Well, we haven't heard about any rule changes, and we know the reason why McCarthy's gone is because a single member could make a motion to vacate the chair. Mm-hmm. So he's in his honeymoon period right now, and we'll see what happens and whether or not he can hold his conference together.
So let's talk about Patrick McHenry. There's a lot of people wondering, who is Patrick McHenry, as interim speaker and wanting to know about North Carolina and everything. Of course, everyone in North Carolina knows who he is, but, outside, other states may not. What do you think about how he handled this role in between all of this? Because you've known him for a long time.
Yes, he was in that same class with Tim Moore and me. We all got elected in 2002 to the state house. So I've known him since 2002. He was a very different kind of politician then, much more of a kind of aggressive, more extreme politician. But he's become, within the Republican conference, more of a deal maker. I think he did a great job presiding, except for when he hit the gavel a little bit too hard when he got mad. But he got a standing ovation from both sides of the aisle when he finally got to step down. Mm-hmm. He seemed very reluctant to stay in that position for a long period of time. Some people thought he might get speaker fever. It didn't seem to me like he ever got speaker fever, but I think he handled the situation, at least on the floor, in a really good way.
So you know him. I'd heard about that you all brewed beer together or something like that?
Well, there's Anheuser-Busch has this event called Brew Across America where you raise money for, we raise money for a veterans group, but you raise money for good causes. And you work together. They're all bipartisan teams. There are about a half a dozen bipartisan teams. And you work with a local brewery to brew a new beer. So we worked with Wicked Weed in Asheville, and we had a meeting with Wicked Weed, and we told them kind of things that we liked. He actually was at Wicked Weed. I did it remotely because I had to be somewhere else. And then they came up with a beer. We got to name it To Be rather than To Seem.
Of course.
And it was great. And I'm not a huge beer drinker, but I thought it was good. And a lot of people thought it was good. We, however, did not win. But it was a fun thing to work on, and it was for a good cause.
How did it end up being the two of you that worked together?
He was approached, and then he asked me.
Oh, okay.
And so I said yes. Of course, it's kind of a fun thing to do. And we were at Nat Stadium. That's where all the judging was done, and they brought in the Clydesdale ponies, and it was just a kind of a fun night. And it was after we had gotten a speaker, and so I think there was a little bit more bipartisan cooperation. I think people really appreciated having a bipartisan event to attend that night.
What is it like knowing the same people at both the state government level and the federal government level? Is it different just because the legislative process is a little bit different? The spotlight is a little bit different. The way if Moore ends up running for Congress and winning, and just knowing McHenry beforehand. And I don't know if you and Jeff Jackson, I don't think, overlapped.
No, we didn't overlap. Yeah. I actually have known most of the members of our delegation previously. I went to law school with Dan Bishop. I served with Alma Adams. I served with Valerie Fouché. I was a lobbyist for the ACLU when Virginia Fox was there, and she had a good voting record from the ACLU at that time. She's changed a little bit. But I actually know several of the members. I think it helps with collegiality. I mean, we're not going to agree on a lot of things, but sometimes it's very important that we come together for North Carolina. As a matter of fact, I do a lot of work with Senator Tillis, and we were in the House together when the Democrats were in charge, and then, of course, when he became Speaker, and we did some work together on beer. When we were both in the State House. And now we do a lot of work together, particularly on innovation issues and intellectual property issues. So I think it helps to have that previous relationship.
So beer and economic issues are the bipartisan uniters, I guess.
Yes.
All right, we're almost out of time, so we'll go to our picks for Headliner of the Week. Who or what is your Headliner of the Week?
Well, my Headliner of the Week is the U.S. Senate, because everybody's been talking about the U.S. House with redistricting and with the speaker's race. But the fact of the matter is that the U.S. Senate is functioning probably at one of its highest levels in a long time. It's very bipartisan. Their budget process has been extremely bipartisan. And I think it's going to be the U.S. Senate as the shining star going into the end of the year.
All right. My headliner is, as you all are listening to this, it's October 30th, or maybe you're listening on Tuesday, which is Halloween. So my headliner is Halloween. As a parent, and even before I was a parent, it's a fun holiday for a variety of things, the trick-or-treating, decorating, all of that. So that's my headliner. I hope everyone has a fun Halloween this week. All right. Thank you, Representative Ross, for being here again. I'm Dawn Vaughan for the News and Observer. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.